mining away. I don't know what to mine, I'll mine this anyway. In this Minecraft day, so beautiful, further down, what's that I found?
Hello people of Earth. Now before you dislike the video, I wanted to clarify that Minecraft is one of my favorite games and I really enjoy the game. In fact, the only reason I'm making this video is because I just want to let people know how the game could get better and what the complaints of it are, and the fact that it's not a perfect game. It has some pretty glaring issues. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Mining away. I don't know what to mine, I'll mine.
So my first problem with the game, and it's probably the most fundamental problem with the game, I call the Flatline Effect. Basically, if you recorded your enjoyment of the game on a line graph over a period of time, the beginning's pretty strong because you start with nothing. Pretty quickly you're beginning to build stuff, you're getting tools and materials, you're mining, and it probably slows down a little bit, or maybe even starts dropping until you get to the Nether, which should be still fairly early on, and everything's fun, you're enjoying the game. But then it sort of gets to a point where you're just constantly grinding to get to the next sort of portion of the game, which is things like the end or fighting the Wither, and that stuff takes way too long in my opinion.
Mining away. I don't know what to mine, I'll mine.
The next problem I have is the combat is uninteresting, it's not engaging, it's really boring. It's basically, you see this thing, whack this thing with the thing in your hand until it falls over and drops stuff. If it just does melee attacks, it walks at you in a straight line. If it's something like a skeleton, it might sidestep a little bit and fire at you, but generally the enemies are unchallenging, they're unengaging. It's pretty much whack it until it's dead or shoot it full of arrows until it's dead.
Mining away. I don't know what to mine, I'll mine.
Now, here's another big problem with the game, and this is yet another fundamental issue that I have with this game. See, they're banking on it's this randomly generated open world game and it's so amazing, and they're right, it's a cool game, but the problem is it has all these cool biomes and stuff, but you could spawn in a world and it's like plains and woods as far as you can go. You can't find any of the cool stuff. And that problem branches even further when it gets to trying to find your end portal. You know, that can be really far away. The woodland mansions, you know, like it can be insane distances to get stuff that's either mandatory or really, really helpful. Like a village, you know, it could be that getting a village isn't worth your time because the closest one is just too far away. You could get lucky. You could get a world that has everything pretty close together, and it's relatively painless to get from one location to another. But in a general sense, usually a big problem with it, besides the grinding, would be just the distance you have to travel from one place to another.
Mining away. I don't know what to mine, I'll mine.
So this next problem is sort of a nitpick, but it has to do with the graphics. Now, I'm not going to be one of those idiots that's like, it looks terrible because it's low resolution. No, there are plenty of games that look amazing at low resolutions. Just look at Super Metroid. That game looks amazing. There are plenty of examples of simplistic retro graphics that look incredible. The problem is, Minecraft isn't one of those games. And why not, you might ask? It's got that retro pixelated look. Well, the problem is, it's not super committed to a retro style. It's more sort of blended all the colors together. They use as many shades as they want, which, you know, with that sort of aesthetic, you should have a color palette limitation. That makes it look more authentic. That gives the visuals more of a sharp, defined look. Everything looks a lot more interesting. Minecraft prefers to blend everything together in a way that looks a lot more like basically nothing stands out in the textures anymore. And it used to be, like, you looked at the grass, it had like 5 distinct shades of bright green, and it looked great, and it looked defined, it looked interesting. Now it looks more like just sort of a blob as far as the color. It's not, nothing really stands out, it all just sort of blends in, and a game just really doesn't work like that. If you've ever seen a game that looks so blended together where nothing stands out, they're the most boring looking games ever, and that's exactly what Minecraft is doing. Now they brought someone in to redo a lot of the textures, but the problem is the work of his I've seen so far is only amplifying the problem by making things even more blurry than they already were.
Mining away. I don't know what to mine, I'll mine.
So in this final portion of the video, I'm going to give my solutions to these problems, because I don't want to just point out problems, I want to give solutions. And even though some of these may not be the best solutions, I figured I might as well put my ideas out there. Starting with the textures, the key to a good visual design is you want things that are striking, that catch your eye. So what the Minecraft really needs is limited color palettes. I know that sort of opposes the idea of having something vibrant, but with a game like Minecraft it really doesn't, because if you look at the textures in Minecraft, they're anything but vibrant. They don't have limited color palettes, they just have limited colors. See, it has plenty of shades of each color it uses, but it's too scared to really experiment anywhere. Everything just sort of blends in, nothing stands out, it all looks uniform and boring. The key to a good visual design is you want something to stand out and catch your eye. And that's something that Minecraft just doesn't do with the newer textures. So, if you ask me, you want to have broader differences between the shades. So the next problem has to do with the whole grinding issue. Really, the issue just, make things more accessible, you know? Basically, important things need to be easier to get. I'm not saying super easy, but if it takes you more than an hour to get all of the Eyes of Ender that you're going to need to get to the end, you maybe should think about shortening it. In fact, I would say an hour and a half at the max. And this also carries over into upgrading, you know? Maybe make diamonds a little bit more frequent. I'm not saying crazy, I just mean a little bit more accessible, maybe easier to spot in caves, you know, stuff like that, just to make the game run a little bit faster and just be a little bit more fun. Because really, the problem is you get stuck in this repetitive pattern with very little return, and you have to keep doing it until you have enough to continue on to the next part of the game. So, bottom line, just make everything from a gameplay standpoint more accessible and require less grinding. The next thing about the combat I actually have a lot of ideas about. See, I'm not opposed to the sword swinging idea, I just wish that it was actually like swinging a sword, to where when the sword swung, it dealt damage to everything that it would have touched in real life. Now, the next thing is, there's really not a lot of variety with bows, you know, like, I think there should be sort of a crossbow thing that would be like a bow, but you could have it drawn back and ready to fire whenever you wanted. Maybe have like a crate system to hold the arrows, sort of like a magazine or an ammo clip or something. And, you know, that's not something that's beyond the technology that you have in Minecraft. It's all sticks and wood and strings and maybe some little metal pieces. That's all stuff you have access to in Minecraft, and it would fit the sort of medieval technology that you see in the game. I think there should be micro variants for each individual mob. Like, you know how zombies and skeletons, you've got husks and strays, like that, but sort of more that have less changes, but maybe more behavioral changes. Like, maybe there should be sort of a random system that chooses how a zombie might chase you, how it might try to get to you, And creepers, though, they walk straight towards you and explode. There's really not a lot of intelligent AI going on. I'm not saying that it wasn't hard to code. What I'm saying is the end result isn't very satisfying as far as a game enemy. So basically, make the enemies more interesting. Don't make them all cookie cutter, do the exact same thing. Add some variety to their attacks. And also, there needs to be some more attack methods for the player. Like I said with the crossbow idea, that's a neat idea. Maybe implement some different ways of attacking with a sword, you know? Like, there's different ways you could do that, whether it's programming another key that will activate a different type of sword swing or whatever. I think there's stuff that can be done there too. And that's pretty much it for this section. The next section is everything's too darn far. How do we fix that? Well, my method, and this is just mine, you got the spawn point, right? So imagine the 100 square chunks that surround your spawn point. Every biome and every area that you're going to need, like maybe you could put a woodland mansion a little bit further than that, but stuff like the end portal and the different biomes and everything need to be accessible in that squared 100 chunks. This would make the game flow a lot faster. I know it's not going on that completely randomly generated thing that they're doing, but it would be very helpful in making the game more fun to play. It would just make it less of a chore. So ultimately, I don't think there's a lot wrong with the game. I just think there's not everything's as refined as it should be. And if Mojang just focused a little bit more on refining the stuff instead of adding in new stuff, I think the game could be a whole lot better than it is right now. So anyways, guys, this is a bit of a different video. Tell me what you thought of it in the comments below, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.